Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed scholars and dear friends, I want you all to just imagine for a moment you're standing under a night sky filled to the brim with stars. Have you ever felt that sense of wonder? Have you ever felt the urge to know more? Do you want to understand what lies beyond? The Quran, Islam's holy scripture, is not only a spiritual guide, but also a source of endless curiosity and wonder about the natural world and the sciences within it. Today, let us all embark on a short journey where faith and science meet and see how the Quran continues to inspire minds just as it has over 1,400 years. Now, let's start with a quick show of hands. Who here has ever looked up at the sky and felt amazed by the stars, planets, or even just the vastness of it all? Well, as it turns out, the Quran actually encourages this sense of wonder. Did you know, in Surah Al-Imran, verse 190, the Quran says, "Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternations of the day and the night are signs for those of understanding." It's as if the Quran is telling us, go on, be curious, explore, observe, and ask questions, etc. But speaking of the sky, did you know that the Quran made references to the creation of the whole universe long before modern science caught up? In Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 30, the Quran describes the heavens and the earth as once being a closed-up mass before they were separated. Now tell me, doesn't that sound kind of familiar? That's right. It's eerily similar to the Big Bang Theory, a concept that was created in the 20th century. And yet, here it is, mentioned in a book over 1,400 years old. Isn't that just crazy? Now, let me ask you all a question. How many of you remember learning about embryonic development in school? Well, the Quran had a thing or two to say about that as well. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, from 12 to 14, the Quran describes the stages of human development with surprising accuracy, from just a tiny drop to a fully formed human. Now tell me, doesn't that kind of sound like a biology lesson? But it's an example of how the Quran touches upon very scientific concepts far ahead of its time. Let us all dive a little deeper. Literally. Ever wondered what the ocean depths are like? In Surah An-Nur, verse 40, the Quran describes the darkness of the deep sea where waves are layered upon waves. Now tell me, how could anyone know about these hidden depths back then? And yet, it's another example of how the Quran intertwines with the natural world we live in today. But here's the key point, y'all. The Quran doesn't just randomly drop these nuggets of wisdom. It inspires and pushes us to explore further. It inspired Muslim scholars during the golden age of Islam to lead the world in scientific concepts and discoveries. Their contributions in things like math, medicine, astronomy, and more laid the groundwork for much of modern sciences today. But always remember, the Quran is not at all a science textbook. Rather, it is a book of science. Science that encourages us to seek knowledge and ask questions. So, as we stand at the intersection of faith and science, let us take a moment to reflect. The Quran encourages us to embrace both faith and science. It reminds us that in the quest for understanding, whether through faith or science, it's a journey that is worth taking. And as we continue to discover the biggest mysteries of this universe that we live in today, let us remember that both curiosity and humility go hand in hand. The Quran invites us to look at the world with wonder and reminds us that in the quest for understanding, we might just find a greater purpose. Thank you all so much for listening. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.